The protests in Portland continue as Donald Trump's police force cracks down against apparently soccer moms and dudes with leaf blowers. Now, these protests, of course, have happened nightly since the end of May for Black Lives Matter, of course. Now, the reason these protests started, of course, is because the death of George Floyd was basically a catalyst. Police murdered this man, along with numerous others. Breonna Taylor, for example, her killers are still not have not been brought to justice. They shot and killed her 8 times, breaking into her apartment, looking for somebody that they already had in custody. No reason for them to break into that apartment whatsoever. And these stories like these play out and have played out across the country. And so people in Portland are especially fed up with this and have been protesting ever since. And so now another story to bring up is the death of Jason Washington, a new focus of the protests. He was a black resident of the city who was shot and killed by police back in 2018. And so all of this is coming out now. So there are a lot of protests. And most of the protests, a large majority of them, have been peaceful, nonviolent. There hasn't been, and you've noticed that the news coverage of this has tapered off. Why? Well, it's because the limited riots that they were having are now gone, and so there's really no need for massive media attention. Most of the protests have been peaceful. But Donald Trump sent the troops in anyway. He's threatening to send the troops into other places as well, places that are, of course, heavily minority, to crack down on those peaceful protesters. And in fact, these troops that have been sent in to restore order have actually been kidnapping people off the streets and, in unmarked vans and unmarked vehicles for things like graffiti, which now, by the way, is punishable with 10 years in prison under Trump for graffiti, stuff that you can wash off. So understand, that's, I think, a blatant federal abuse of power. And so a lot of Portland residents are not happy about this. And now the moms have joined in to try to stop them. And so as a group known as the Wall of Moms, and it is, generally white women, because let's be honest, black mothers have been fighting this war all their own for a long time. But hey, at least it's good to get reinforcements in the case of the Wall of Moms. And they're known as that because they interlocked their arms to prevent cops from gassing protesters. Except it didn't work because they got gassed themselves. That's a federal crime, by the way. Using tear gas, you're not actually supposed to be able to use tear gas in America. So that's said, right? Now, with the moms not deterring this action, here comes the dads with leaf blowers. I'm not kidding. Video from confrontations between demonstrators and officers on Monday night into Tuesday morning highlighted how protesters used hockey sticks to scoot tear gas canisters back towards those who fired them, and leaf blowers as a means to dissipate clouds of chemicals away from protesters. Smaller leaf blowers were also used to help get chemicals off people's bodies, according to the videos. In fact, we've got a little bit of a snippet of that I want to show you. Here come the leaf blowers. That's awesome. And a really good idea, actually, when it comes to dealing with tear gas. Not something that you would think you would have to deal with in everyday life. But again, this is Trump's America, where you're not actually able to protest about Black lives. You are able to protest, if you think that lockdown restrictions and wearing a mask is tyranny. But when it comes to actual tyranny against Black people, well, no, you can't protest. We're going to send in the troops. We're going to send in the feds. Whatever happened to the NRA? Talking about, government overreach and the government stepping on people. Whatever happened to the Tea Party? Where are those guys? Oh, right. They're the ones saying, oh, no, guys, go home. Listen to what the government's telling you and stop protesting. Okay, just go home. Okay, just go home, guys. Okay. Now, if somebody tells me to wear a mask, I'm gonna strap on my AR-15. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna protest. But for you to just go home, stop protesting, please. Listen to the government. Now, what's funny is that after word of the leaf blowers reached the Department of Homeland Security, which should be abolished, about the use of leaf blowers, an official within the department told a Washington Post reporter, Nick Miroff, that they were frustrated with efforts by protesters to do so and were shocked that they would return the chemicals back towards the federal officers. Well, yeah. What, did they just expect you to sit there and take it and just take a nice big breath of the chemicals that you shouldn't even be using? By the way, during a pandemic, during COVID-19, okay, where you have a respiratory disease, you're using tear gas. Yeah, real nice, real nice. So that is kind of hilarious. Now, there's some social media posts on that, which were fun. One person adding, "The only way to stop a bad guy with tear gas is a good guy with a leaf blower." I like that. Our democracy is being destroyed by people who lost a battle of wits to a leaf blower. That's also really good. So that's fun. Now, a protester by the name of King Turner had actually spoke to a local news affiliate, KPTV, about the demonstrations and the federal government's basically invasion of the area. They said that their presence, not the protests, are what escalated the situation. Quote, "I've just had enough. When they started snatching people off the street, it becomes apparent that the federal government is just not in check. It was even tampering down, and then the feds get involved and lit it up. It's like throwing gas on a fire." Yeah, that's what you don't want to do. But that's exactly what it's having. Look, people in Portland, the Portland mayor says, "Get out. I don't need you here. I don't want you here. You're actually making things worse." And of course, this is the whole point of like over militarization of police and using the federal troops to disperse something that actually could have been controlled by local police had they just been there to keep the peace. That's it. That's all we want. Like, okay, police, just keep the peace, right? That's all we're asking. Let people have their First Amendment rights. Let them protest. They can get a little loud, and that's fine. That's acceptable. All right? It is a protest. You don't need to be firing tear gas at people that are marching. Okay, you just can't do that. You can't do that. Now, a protester who goes by the alias Doug Smith, smart to use an alias, and who spoke the truth out about the events in Portland, also said this. "This data expresses disdain for Trump using so-called elite Border Patrol agents to brutally assault and abduct peaceful American people in an American city." Look, if any other country had done this, the United States would be calling to invade them over human rights abuses, especially if they have oil. Let's be honest about that, right? If they have oil, oh my God, human rights abuses. We gotta go in, send in the troops. Corporate Democrats would be like, "Where were the Republicans? Send in the troops." Look, if you think they're violent thugs, by the way, understand the crimes that people are being accused of are mainly being at the protests and some that, yes, vandalize in the form of graffiti. But like I said, being kidnapped in an unmarked van over painting BLM on a wall or a statue, something that can be easily cleaned up, by the way, and should be easily cleaned up. That's worthy of being basically having jackbooted thugs who I don't identify themselves like a fascist country come in and abduct you off the street. No, that's absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable. These are our First Amendment rights. I mean, protesting. And so this is basically a brutal crackdown from Donald Trump's America. So I'm with the protesters. I'm with the wall of moms. I'm with the leaf blower dads. I'm with the First Amendment. I'm with protest and I'm with Black Lives Matter, because it turns out they do. Black lives do matter. And, no jackbooted federal thugs are going to change that fact. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.